DJ and PK, it's 97.5 at KSL Sports Zone. We are joined once again by Evan Brennan. He has joined us in past before the draft. He's an NFL certified contract advisor at JL Sports Agency. Evan, good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
So is this a really busy week for you, or all your work is done and you're waiting now until the names are called, and then at the end of the seventh round, getting clients in with free agents, it gets busy again? Is there a lull before the storm here for you?
I'll put it this way. It's 8:06, and I have had at least 10 calls from NFL teams this morning alone.
Wow. All right.
What do they want to know?
Well, a lot of them are trying to figure out where some of these guys are going to go. They're starting to target guys that they may want to grab after the draft and undrafted free agency, all kinds of stuff. Find out last-minute, tidbits about guys. It depends. There's all kinds of stuff. So smoke and mirrors, investigation, who knows? It's a wild deal.
The old cliche about the undrafted guys, you'd rather be undrafted so you can pick your landing spot as opposed to being drafted in the seventh round, or that's just what you say when you're not drafted, you'd rather be drafted. How do your clients feel, and if you advise them on how they should feel, what do you say?
That is the number one question I get by everyone in this. Here's my answer. There is some merit to being able to go where you want, and if you are a very top undrafted free agent, undrafted, you will get more guaranteed money than a seventh-round pick. That's very, very true. However, the metrics do show that if teams make a draft investment in you, there is a higher chance that you'll make a practice squad or maybe even a team, given that the team's done that kind of investment. It comes down to if teams are drafting for best available or need. And so it can kind of go both ways. I tell guys, you always want to get drafted. It helps you down the road. If you get cut, teams are more willing to bring in a guy that was a draft pick versus somebody else by a slight margin. But if you don't, having a backup plan on, the best destination for you and a really, really good comp plan with a signing bonus and paragraph 5 guarantee is good too. So the way I do it personally with my clients, we have a couple teams picked out. If you don't get picked, we try to talk to those teams, say, hey, would you guys be interested if this guy falls through? And we kind of have that destination. And if some other teams outside of that small group of teams call, we try to say, hey, we think we've got a team picked out. If he, goes undrafted, if you want him, you're going to have to draft him. And that's been effective in getting guys drafted that otherwise may not be.
Seems like we see this every year, us guys in the media, that when Saturday comes and the draft is over, then there's just a plethora of emails that will come our way from the local schools here, players XYZ 1 through 7 through 8, whatever it might be. They've signed with this school, this team, and I always look forward to that to see where these guys are going to go, because I can follow the draft and find out where they're going to go. And the only way we're going to find out, or not the only way, but the best way, is the sports information people just email you. Put out group emails of where all these kids are going. And it makes me wonder, when you get to that point on Saturday afternoon, is that more frenzied compared to all the other times in the draft when there's all these guys who are undrafted and teams are trying to jockey to get these kids?
It's a wild time. So just to give the listeners kind of an idea, these teams call, hey, Evan, we like your center from Weber State. We want to offer him a signing bonus. We want to offer him a guarantee on his contract, a paragraph 5 guarantee. Here's what our depth chart looks like. Are you in? You got 1 minute to decide. It can go like that. And then you kind of get this handshake deal. We call it agreed terms. They send you the contract late that night. You look it over. As the agent, you sign your portion, and it goes back to the team. When the kid reports for rookie minicamp, either that week or the following week, he signs his portion. So what the sports information directors are calling us, late on Saturday night or whatever it may be. Hey, where's your guys going? And we let them know, and that's how it all breaks down. But yes, during the draft, trying to get a guy drafted is very frenzy. But after the draft, even more so. I plan on taking anywhere from 200 to 400 calls on Saturday.
Evan, we've had you on. I think we started having you on because you were representing several guys with local ties. Are you representing several guys with local ties for players across the state of Utah this year?
I am. I've got a kid that probably a lot of your listeners don't know, but they should, because he legitimately has got a real shot at getting drafted. A couple of teams have brought him in already. Gavin Ortega, the offensive lineman for Weber State, is a very large and very realistic sleeper to get drafted in this upcoming draft out of Weber State. So he's my guy locally that I'm working with.
Has NIL changed the draft? Because we've heard that it's changing the NBA in terms of guys maybe being second round, late first, and they want to stay in school and get the guaranteed money as opposed to risking it.
Yes, you are seeing a lot of guys trying to stick it out and, fight for another year. You're seeing people, try to use the courts to get another year because there's significant money in NIL. And so, when you're looking at kids coming out, one of the questions that you're asking is, are you done with college or are you not? Because if you're done with college, okay, let's proceed on how we're going to get you in the NFL. But if there's any chance that you want to come back, well, let's have that conversation on the front end rather than getting into January. And more players are trying to milk every day they can out of college because of the money. So, yes, in many ways it has changed my job.
Evan Brennan joining us, NFL Certified Contract Advisor, a.k.a. agent, at JL Sports Agency. Do you individually or does anyone in your agent represent college players in these NIL discussions? And if so, do you do it to kind of get the foot in the door to represent them at the NFL? We've heard lots of stories back in the day about NFL agents, but they've been certified for a while, and so a lot of the Wild West stories have dropped away. But we have heard the Wild West stories at the college level. So how is that working?
Yeah, so I work for JL Sports. We're a pretty well-known agency. This is actually my first year here. They brought me over, represent guys like Joe Flacco, Kyle Juszczyk, very well-respected agency. My personal practice is very heavy on the pro side, about 90%. I do some NIL work, and it's growing, but it's a minority of what I do. For most of the agents at our firm, it's the other way around, and there is significant money in NIL. We have one or two agents that all they do is NIL work, and we represent millions and millions of dollars on a yearly basis in NIL stuff. So at least at JL Sports at my firm, we have a very prominent presence in NIL. Me personally, it's a smaller one. I'm kind of the well-known pro guy that deals a lot on that side. But even like I said, I dabble in it with probably 2 or 3 players every single year. But it is a significant factor in the business and the money that can be made on the agent side.
And I'm wondering, as far as certification, from the NFL, it's regulated. How about there's no really regulating agency at the college level? Is there some guys that are maybe considered shady trying to represent these kids? Because unless I'm wrong, they don't have to go through a level of certification that you've had to do.
You're partially true. Yes, I carry the certified contractor license, one of the only ones, if not the only one in the state of Utah. I have to carry malpractice insurance. I undergo an FBI level background check every single year. Now, individual states also regulate agents, including the state of Utah, and you have to submit to have a license on the state level. It's not very hard to get. It's just $500 or so, and you register with the Secretary of State. It's not heavily regulated. It could be, but it's not. But in theory, any agent in the NIL practicing in Utah and other states would have to register, even if they're not representing pro players, with the state of Utah. And in theory, if you fail to do that or not do it properly or violated the different provisions, you could face real issues. So to answer your question, no, there's not a formal test. No, there's not malpractice insurance that exists for NIL agents. But in theory, you should register with the Secretary of State, state by state, including Utah, which has athlete agent laws that would apply to NIL agents.
Evan Brennan joining us, NFL Certified Contract Advisor at JL Sports Agency. How many guys from Utah schools do you think are going to get drafted? How much insight do you have into that?
Ooh, there's has to be over. BYU's probably got 2 guys. Utah's got a handful of guys, probably the same. I mentioned my guy at Weber State's got a real shot. There may be one guy at Utah State that's got an outside shot. So you do the math on that, somewhere between, 7 to 10 guys in the state that have got a realistic shot. I mean, the guy at BYU that I'm rooting for, I don't represent him, is Carson Ryan. Guys like Chase Roberts that I think have got a shot. I think Jack Kelly at BYU is probably going to go. You got Wolf Barron and guys like that. I mean, Utah's got, their high-end picks on the offensive line, defensive line that are, high-end guys that I think have got a real shot of, not just getting drafted, but going really high in the draft. So between all of that, like I said, 7 to 10.
The way this process works every year, it's always fascinated me. They've got at least 3 years likely of film on all these kids, right? Then they bring them back to the combine and they go through all that stuff. Then they go and do pro day workouts. So you got all this stuff. What matters more than other stuff in terms of evaluation? Because you got film of guys actually playing football than, as they say, guys running around in their underwear.
At the end of the day, the film is king, particularly for guys that are quote-unquote known entities, guys that went to the combine, guys from big schools. Film is king. The coaches a lot of times make these decisions, and they're watching film. However, for guys that are more off the beaten path, to get their film really noticed, they're going to have to run and jump really, really, really good. And that's how you kind of more or less kind of make yourself stand out as a quote-unquote traits player. So that's another question that I get a lot. If you're a very well-known, dominant player on tape at a big school, the tape's going to mean more. If you're not as dominant or you're at a smaller school, yeah, you're going to have to kind of get your shot and get more well-noticed on traits. And that's what you're seeing, like I said, with this Weaver State kid. He's got good tape, but not a lot of people are going to look at it unless he tested really good, which he did, and that more or less got him on the board. So that's kind of how that works, and that's why you see guys at the combine from Alabama, from Ole Miss. They don't necessarily test very well, but get drafted really high is because they play really good football against NFL talent every single Saturday. And that's why you see really good players from small schools don't get picked, because their tape doesn't mean as much to teams because it's against lesser talent. They're going to have to test their way and have good tape. So hopefully that answers your question.
It seems inevitable, and it has seemed inevitable for probably 3 or 4 years now, that the NFL is going to go to 18 games. There's been some talk of players only playing 17 if they put in some kind of rule like that. But if they let them play 18, does getting on a practice squad become even more valuable? Does it just become inevitable that those guys will be rotated through and will get a shot?
Well, they expanded the practice squads a few years back. They used to only be 10. They're bigger, and part of that is just because the season keeps expanding. I mean, I tell guys, hey, if you're on a practice squad, there's a real chance you're going to get bumped up, particularly later in the year. And there's a lot of strategy teams use with how to manage their practice squad. But yes, the longer the seasons get, the more and more likely it is that teams are going to have to dip into their practice squad, and injuries will occur. It's just inevitable within football. Teams have to, make sure that they're in the best possible situation they can be every single Sunday. So, yes, 100%. A lot more strategy is going to have to go on with how you manage your roster if the seasons do expand beyond where they currently sit, 100%.
I'm also fascinated by these 40 times, right? It's like a split second and even less than a second. And if you were able to get whatever it might be, that under the 4.5 or 4.5, whatever, it's like that's magic numbers, right? And then we go crazy on that. And then you got a kid like Puka Nacua, who may not be a sprinter blazer, and he lasts until the 5th round, I think it was, and then he blows up. How do they reconcile that when they got these stopwatches? It's almost like, it's so vitally important, but yet if a kid isn't a big-time sprinter, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not a big-time player.
100%. And you look at the Rams, they've done a great job with what you would call slow receivers. Look at Cooper Kupp playing for those guys and lasting where he did in a very similar place to Puka Nacua. He did not run very well at the combine at all, and has proven to be a great player just like Puka. So some of it's an organizational thing that, hey, we're going to watch the tape, we're going to look at a lot of different things, and we're not going to put as much value on the speed. We trust the film more. We trust, what we're seeing in a lot of different arenas more. And so I think the Rams in particular have done a great job with slower receivers and trusting that tape. And I think you'll see some more teams emulate that. And there's some teams that traits mean a lot to us. We have faith in our coaches to develop them, but it is, it's quite inconsistent, I would say, across the league, player to player. You'll see great players that aren't great testers. You'll see horrible players that are incredible testers. And that's just the kind of the fun and variance and variability of the league and the evaluation process.
Do agents get to have relationships with coaches, or is it more a GM personnel thing? And I ask that because we see someone like Harbaugh moving from Baltimore to New York. He's been in the league forever. There figures to be some turnover on that roster, maybe with a relationship if he knows what kind of players a certain agent likes and all that. Maybe they think there'd be a little more trust that it'll be a better fit for some of these end of the roster or jobs. Is there any angle to be played there as an agent?
Yeah, so I mean, to be totally candid with you, position coaches I deal with daily. I had coaches call me this morning from the NFL. Last night I dealt with the safeties coach. I talked to Vrabel yesterday about one of my guys. Head coaches less so much with undrafted guys. Where you deal a lot with head coaches with draft picks, guys that are legit mid-round or higher draft picks. Head coach will call you, hey, really like your guy, what are you hearing, and kind of feel you out on the market. General managers will do that too. Position coaches get heavily involved with late day three guys and undrafted guys, and a good relationship with a position coach can go a long way in getting a guy drafted or get a guy placed in undrafted free agency. They recognize the name. I mean, I was talking to an O-line coach for the team that I have, several players on the team. He knew my name. He called me up. Hey, we're looking at this guy. Love all the work you've done with all of our guys. Would love to, maybe get a deal done after the draft on this kid. What are you hearing on this guy? And it was an O-line coach just calling me. So, those relationships do matter. If you're kind of a repeat player, you develop those relationships, and teams kind of, like to deal with people they know versus random wild cards that could hurt them in the process just because they don't know who they are. If the players are, fungible, are kind of exactly the same. So, yes, for sure, those things matter, particularly at the position coach level.
You speak of that position coach, and I'm wondering for the free agent guys, when you get to that and you weren't drafted, how that's going to be. Because you hear quarterbacks, okay, Sean Payton can develop quarterbacks, right? We know what he did with the Saints, and now he's looking like he's doing the same thing with Denver, with Knicks, and has a great rookie year, and all of a sudden that changed the outlook of the franchise there to be a playoff contender for the next X amount of years. So I'm wondering, as far as the free agents, with maybe assistant coaches too, or even the head coach, they do really well at developing, say, like Chase Roberts, for example, just to use him as an example, doesn't get drafted. Would he look at, well, how do they use receivers there? And even if it's not the more money, whatever it might be, I might have a better chance to be developed at Team X.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a couple examples. The Eagles have one of the best O-line coaches in the league, and he's very well regarded, and he's had a lot of great players, and so he's considered one of the best, if not the best O-line coach. And so, great job of selling himself and kind of, putting himself as the top O-line coach in the NFL, and a lot of guys want to play for him. And he leverages that very well in targeting undrafted guys for sure. I mean, Bubba Ventrone, I represent Luke Rhodes for the Colts, the highest paid long snapper in NFL history, very well-known long snapper. Bubba Ventrone was his special teams coach for a long, long time in Indianapolis and is known as one of the top special teams coordinators. He calls me all the time about guys, Dave Phipp, Joe DeCamillis. Some of these special teams coaches have pretty strong resumes. And I deal with the special teams coaches a lot because they cross over linebackers, safeties, wide receivers, corners, and being, known as a special teams coach that, develops and works with kind of the backup players, the undrafted guys, is, a real big selling point. So to your point, with a guy like Chase Roberts, who probably is not going to come in and start anytime soon in the NFL, making it on special teams is going to be huge. And his relationship with the special teams coach is going to be big. And if the special teams coach identifies him even before he enters the building as a potential special teams coordinator or special teams contributor, could play a huge, huge role in this. And so, yes, relationships with those special teams coordinators, with the position coaches is very fundamental in helping your guys get in the right spot so they can make it long term.
Spring football leagues come and go. We currently have the UFL. How much do NFL people look at that? How big an advantage is that? How hard do you have to work to get your guys into that if they don't stick with an NFL team right away? Is that a good path forward?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of seeing a trend with those. You're seeing a lot of guys. They're taking a lot of what I call retreads, guys that, were in and out of the NFL. That's kind of the main use of that league is they want to work with guys that were in the NFL for a while, got cut, or, they just didn't get renewed. and are trying to get back. If you got to be a dominant player though in the UFL, if you want a shot back at the NFL, you'll see them grab guys a couple times during the year. Maybe, early in kind of the year after the season ends, if they had a dominant year the year before, you'll see them sometimes fill in gaps from time to time. There's all different kind of ways that it could come into play, but really those are reserved for different players that are dominant at that level. So it's a hard route. Don't get me wrong. The CFL is even harder for that, for sure.
Well, Evan, we appreciate a few minutes as always. Thanks for joining us and talking a little NFL draft. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Evan Brennan, NFL certified contract advisor and agent at the JL Sports Agency, and he took 10 calls before he came on the air with us, PK. So everybody's double-checking everything. The pressure's on. You don't want to whiff.
Oh, no, I mean, this is so important. This is vitally important to building your franchise. I mean, it's the same thing we talk about the NBA, but the NBA doesn't have as much player movement as the NFL does, and obviously the rosters aren't as big. You need to have free agency, you need to have trades, and you need to have draft. And I think if I'm ranking them in level of importance, it's the draft. I mean, the teams that hit on draft picks and then free agent signings, obviously quarterback is a big deal, but I mean, you've got to nail these drafts. I mean, a fourth-round pick is vitally important to your franchise, most likely.
It is such an advantage in a league with a hard salary cap to get players on a rookie contract who can contribute to winning. That is such an advantage. And if you whiff on it, then it's really an uphill battle from there.
I know. That's why I've been so valuable to the companies in radio, because I've been working on a rookie contract for almost 25 years now.
That's not true. You worked on a rookie contract for 5 years. The last 20, you've been a well-compensated veteran.
What are you, my agent? Thank you,
Well,
Evan.
if you think about it, PK, have your phone. Answer it when they call. So, yeah, I guess it was.
And I answered it. And I had my
It
phone.
worked out. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back,
600,000.
Messi's coming to town tonight. Kurt Schmid, Real Salt Lake Chief Soccer Officer, joins us next. Stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCombe.
Joining us now, longtime head coach at BYU, Dave Rose, kind enough to carve out some time for us. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Not as well as Tim, but I'm doing really well today.
It's a good day today, Coach.
Yeah, it is a good day. I'm really happy for you, big fella. I can remember those days driving in the middle of nowhere on our way to recruit kids or watch games in the summer. That you talked about someday wanting to have your own radio show. And I thought you were kind of crazy, but
you already knew that.
Yeah. So I'm happy for you. Good luck to you.
It was such an awesome experience. I mean, I had so many different experiences. I worked for Rick and I worked for Ray, and they were distinctly different. And then Ray and Dave were so different, but all in a good way. I just value so much. It was a 12-year education on just how to be a good person.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Tonight, Real Salt Lake hosts Inter Miami. Messi makes his Utah appearance, 7:30. The action begins pregame at 6:30 here on 97.5 The Zone. We're joined right now by Real Salt Lake's Chief Soccer Officer, Kurt Schmid. Kurt, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. So I'm curious, do you just hide out in the office and make yourself inaccessible, or are you moving around town? Are people hitting you up for tickets? Are the calls coming in, your phone buzzing? People want to find a way to get into the big game?
Yeah, there are a lot of people trying to find a way in, but it's a tough get at the moment. Today is a little busy. There's a few people in town. But yeah, overall, I'm usually more of I usually try to keep to myself a little more on game day. So I'll try to get to that as much as I can today. But there are a few more people in town for sure.
With elevation and crowd, it has been understood that RSL had a pretty good home field advantage for many, many years, obviously. Now, this might be a little different. Will that be weird? Because you might get some folks, as you just say, are coming in to see one player and might be prone to cheer for him.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see how that goes, but I do think, we've got a lot of fans that are going to come here to see us play and see us win and succeed and do well and get behind us when we do succeed. And I think no matter who a crowd comes to see, I think soccer crowds usually like to see a team that plays well and puts a good display on and can excite them and create chances to score goals. And we've been able to do that. And so I don't think that's a big bug in the back of my head in any way. But I do have I'm excited to see the big crowd come out, and I know that's going to be a buzz in the air for the guys. I mean, not to go off topic too much or on a tangent, but I remember, when I was in Seattle when they started up and, we had a big crowd there in Seattle every game, and we almost felt it was to our detriment because even though they were fans of our team, the other team almost got up more for it because it energized them. And so, I think just being able to put a show on in front of that many people, even if, not 100% of them might be there in support, it's always going to be extra motivational for the guys.
I got to say, watching from a distance, I didn't think Miami was off to a great start. And then I took a little closer look. It's like this has been a really road-heavy schedule. So although their record and point total aren't awesome, when you factor in the road, it actually is pretty good. They haven't been great in their 2 home games, so that's a little bit of a problem here in their start. But do you still view them with Messi as one of the top teams in the league? Is everybody looking over their shoulder at them, even though they're not sitting on top of the standings right now?
I mean, I think when you've got special players on your team of the caliber that they have, then I don't think it really matters what the run of form is, to be honest with you, because they've got players that can do something at any moment, and whatever happened before that, whether in that game or in the last 3 games, is irrelevant to that. And then you throw on top of that the coaching situation and that change, then really you can just throw the form out the window, I think, for this one and really just start fresh. And so I don't think that's a big concern. I don't think the road thing. Yeah, they had a road heavy schedule because they were building the stadium, and but even coming home didn't really save them either, right? They didn't get those good results back home when they got there. So at the end of the day, it's about 22 guys on the field and competing to win the game.
So one other thing about their form before I let that go, because I'm hard-headed. They've scored a lot of goals, but, man, they've given up 14 goals already in their first 8 games. And RSL also scores a lot of goals. They've given up 10 goals so far. And these clubs just played in their respective games 3-2 and 4-2 games on the weekend. Are you expecting a lot of goals tonight?
I would say there should be goals, absolutely. I think our group feels very confident that we're going to score goals, not a goal, but goals. And so, I think there's going to be goals in this game, and I hope I hope we're the only team scoring them. But if that doesn't turn out to be the case, I have confidence that we'll have the offense to score enough goals to get the result.
One of the keys to RSL scoring goals has been Morgan Guilavogi, who has just scored his first goal in the most recent game. But Pablo has consistently praised him for the decisions he makes, the way he's played. Pablo has been very impressed with his play. And when he spoke to the media, he said the conversations about coming to the United States actually go back several years, but when he was younger, he just wasn't ready to make that big a move, even though he wanted to move around and live different places. He didn't want to go to the other side of the world at a younger age. I'm curious when he was first on your radar and how long you worked on acquiring him before he finally made the jump here.
Morgan, it was about almost 2 years ago now. It was middle of 24 season that was the window when we first tried to bring him in. but obviously started scouting him a good amount before that. But, he's someone, and I think he's doing it right now, but we thought was a versatile player that could contribute in a lot of different ways for us. And, someone I used to work with would use this phrase, and I haven't always loved it, but the more I watch Morgan, I think it applies to him. But he really looks like a force multiplier when he's on the field. And, I think to dumb that down a little bit, it's just like he makes everyone else around him better. He does the simple thing, the obvious thing, which, is not always so obvious, but he does the simple, efficient thing that is the right decision in the moment. And it isn't always the flashiest play or the most attention grabbing, but it is often the most productive and effective. And, you look at, obviously he scored a goal. It was a great goal. But you look at our second goal on the day, and his ball that he plays out to Luna was massive in terms of opening up the game. His movement in moments, even when he doesn't get the ball, creates space for others. So, he has a ton of quality on his own, and he's able to create chances, to get assists, to score goals. But the other thing that he does is he makes it just that much easier for everyone else to be productive and be effective as well.
Messi's 7 goals is tied for second in the league. RSL is led by Sergei Solans, who has 5 goals, which is tied for 8th in the league. And he is notable because he was playing college soccer last year. He played at Oregon State and UCLA. How does a player make that kind of jump and make that kind of impact?
Honestly, it's not the easiest thing to assess. It's not the most obvious quality in a player, but it is the most valuable quality for a player to have, is this ability to adapt and adjust to new levels quickly. And it's something, when I was in Seattle again, we drafted Christian Roldan, who had this, where he just adapted very quickly. Jordan Morris was the same in Salt Lake, picked up guys like Emeka Eneli and Jasper Wolferson. It's one of the qualities that Gozo has exhibited as he's moved his way through the ranks in our academy. And Sergi looks like he's doing it as well. And, I think one of the biggest things that's aided him, beyond some of the obvious things, like his work rate is excellent. Obviously he's shown some good finishing ability as well, but it's his soccer IQ. It's not just about how hard he's working, which he is one of the hardest workers on the team, but it's also how smart he works. And when you combine those two things, it just becomes really, really effective.
Oh, last thing, DeAndre Yedlin actually played with Messi in Miami. He was captain there. There's a thing about them winning and hoisting the trophy together, and he's trying to give the armband back, and Yedlin doesn't want it. Is there an advantage to having played with him when you're trying to defend him, or he's a magician and everybody has just got to do the best they can and good luck?
I mean, I think in terms of, quality, I don't know that there's an advantage. And, I think he is, of such a level that, he can do things that very, very few, if any, other players can do. So from that standpoint, I don't know if there's an advantage, but there can be a mental advantage in guys that have played with or against him before, especially, multiple times. I think, you shouldn't have this awe factor where you're maybe giving too much respect, or you need to adjust to like the idea of what's happening before you can actually just get down to business and play your game like any other game. So I would expect DeAndre to approach this like any other game, because it's not a new experience for him to share a field with that player, and so it's not going to be a new experience for him, and I can't imagine he'll be overawed by it.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, we appreciate a few minutes. You got people in town, you got people you got to talk to and deal with, and you got ticket requests you have to turn down. So good luck with that.
Happy to deal with you, DJ. No problem.
All right. Thanks, Kurt.
All right.
Kurt Schmid, Chief Soccer Officer for Real Salt Lake. It's Messi at RSL tonight, 7:30, first kick. You can hear the game on 97.5 The Zone, to be on 1280 The Zone. And we also have tickets for another game upcoming to give away, and we can do that right now. RSL and Portland, May 2nd, America First Field. We got a 5-pack of tickets. If you want to go to the game, call our 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE. RSL on the Portland Timbers. May 2nd. Call right now. DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Turn it up. Let's go. It's a new era for sports radio in Utah. This is the all-new KSL Sports Zone. As always, DJ and PK kick off your mornings from 6 to 10. Then introducing the newest addition to the KSL Sports Zone. The coach, Tim Lacombe, joins Scotty G every day from 10 to 2. And as you wrap up your day, Jake Scott and Ben Anderson are there with the best sports talk in Utah from 2 to 6. Live and local, all day, every day. Your home for the best sports radio in Utah is live, on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Scotty G and the coach today from 10 to noon at Tim Daly Mazda, 10785 South Automall Drive in Sandy. They'll be on remote broadcasting live from 10 to 2 today.
You know, DJ, I just called up KSL.com, see what's going on. Yeah. And they had the classifieds. You can buy a horse out of Roosevelt for $25,000.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of money for a horse from Roosevelt.
I don't know. I don't know what the going rate for horses from Roosevelt are.
Yeah, I don't either, to be honest. I really don't. But $25,000 just hits me as a big number.
Well, really? Because I thought $600,000 was nothing. Now all of a sudden $25,000.
You saved the school $600,000.
$600,000.
Wow.
I mean, I can barely speak. I can barely process it as so much money. I'm stunned by that number.
No, that's
Paycheck is why I live in Utah.
Week take Salt Lake.
I thought
I got a big TV.
I thought that when you said you were checking that, I didn't know. I thought it was going to be tickets either to the game tonight or the game Friday because they both thought it'd be pricey.
Yeah, and they're so pricey that I had to sell my car. That's why I was looking for a horse.
Nice. Way to bring it around. Doesn't have anything to do with anything, but way to bring it around.
Hatback put on Twitter, man, he was going to invite 8 people into his suite Friday night. Place is going to be electric. It's supposed to be a nice day. It'll be electric tonight, too, for Messi, man.
I was looking yesterday, and it was $400 to get standing room only. There were some seats in like the $450 to $500 range. There are a lot of seats in the $500 or $600 range. And I'm looking at the Friday night hockey game now. There's an upper bowl, a couple upper bowl, 176, 190. Most of them are in the 200s. Down now, if you want to sit down by the glass, that's $1,300, $1,500, $1,600 seems to be the top price. And then there's everything in between. So.
I couldn't do it.
I know, right? $1,600 to sit down there in one of the first. I can't tell. It looks like row 4 or something
for a first-round game, no less. Imagine if they should advance, get to the second and third round. Wow, and get to the. And there'll be a time probably that they'll play for it all, whenever that time is. Who knows? Yeah. Can you imagine? Is that what they're going to go for? And is that what they go for in Vegas? Or is this just because of the fact that, hey, this is the first time around? This is literally the first playoff game by an NHL team, our team, in town. I'm wondering how much that has jacked it up a little bit.
And also the fact that this arena has a little lower capacity as they rebuild it. I mean, it's up to about 12,000, but most of these arenas are going to be, 15 to 18.
Yeah.
There'll be a few more seats. A little supply and demand thing there.
I have a way, and it's worked for me a couple times, of buying the cheapest seats and then being able to move down.
Magic. Look at you. Magic.
I used it in the World Series, and I got into the club level.
I'm checking Edmonton and Anaheim right here, and basically the prices are the same. Down by the ice, it's a little less expensive. There's some $850 seats right off the blue line. But up in the upper bowl, it's very similar. There's a lot of $230 seats. Yeah.
I just don't know that I could do that.
I know, and that's for one. I mean, I assume you're buying 2, right? So you're dropping.
No, I'm a lonely guy.
$400 or $500 pretty quick.
Yeah, that's just my background. Coming up on a janitor's salary wasn't very lucrative in my world. It's been hard for me to shake that. I've tried, but it's hard to, you can take the cheap out of the guy, but can you take the guy out of the cheap, or whatever that phrase is?
Yeah, and so you're out there, you're paying $40, $60, $80. You can do that, but you start talking $400, $600, $800, and you're like, gulp.
Yeah. Now, I don't make light of it for those folks who can't afford it. I mean, because there's plenty who literally cannot afford it, and it's a paycheck to paycheck issue. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm that way now, but I grew up that way, obviously, and so I can respect that. I respect people who go to work every day and don't necessarily get the financial remuneration for others that others do. At the same time, if you've got it and you want to have that experience, I respect that too. If that matters to you, because it's probably, if you're doing that, you're not doing that all the time. This is something that really is important to you and you really enjoy it. I don't know that you would be doing it for some random concert or a meal or what have you, but if it's something that you really wanted to do and it's going to be a memory with a spouse, an offspring, a child, whatever it might be, okay, yeah, and obviously people do it. Great, good for them. And
I do wonder how many of these are sold to companies. How much of this is corporate? I'm looking at these. There's 2 seats in the second row. It looks like you're 5 and 6 seats away from the penalty box.
Yeah, but you're looking at the secondary market right now, right?
I am, right.
I don't think corporate does that for the secondary market, do they? I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing out a question
I think that
I
they
don't know.
buy a lot of them up front.
Right.
Whether they'd be willing, that would just be a business by business thing. If you have a client who really wants to go and you're trying to do some big deal, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money because it is a lot of money. But at the same time, if some company's cutting a deal that's worth $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, whatever, $10 million, whatever it is, buying a couple tickets and entertain somebody to get the deal finished, totally worth it.
Right,
I mean,
so you're just doing that as a
investment.
transaction. You're not going to invite your buddy. You just try. Look at you and your business mind. You're just trying to make a buck off this guy. You really have no interest in this person that he or she has a good time. You just want to close the deal. That's all that matters to you, is closing the deal. Is that not true? Make them answer the question, Your Honor.
Doesn't matter to me one way or another. I'm going to be home watching on TV, or I'm going to be on a press pass in the arena.
Yeah, but
in
order to do it, you have to conceive it, and you've conceived it. We found out about your ruthless business mind.
I have been told stories by my bosses in radio and TV and by people who work for these clubs. This is how it works.
Okay, but if you have a situation where you're trying to close a $100,000 deal, buying someone a $200 ticket is going to do it, wouldn't that person be able to afford a $200 ticket?
They might be able to afford it, but they might enjoy making somebody else pay for it anyway, PK. Or maybe they can't, Or you just you don't see it coming. You're like, hey, I got 2 tickets. How about you go and take your kid? And they don't even get to go. The people buying it don't even get to go. They send somebody.
Well, they're not buying it, and the company's buying it.
Yes. Plenty of companies buy plenty of tickets at plenty of games across America.
So it's all sports is nothing but a big transaction to you.
Well, not necessarily to me, but to the people who are paying to sit down in these expensive seats, yes.
I just want to see Lowry Markkinen in his nice-looking hair sitting there.
We'll have plenty of time for Lowry Markkinen. All right, DJ and PK, we're taking a break. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.